Hey guys, it's Paul, and I am here to tell you that today's episode of Goose Pimples is brought to you by ParaboxMonthly.com. Parabox is a great service where every month you can have a box delivered to you that includes a great, soft style, quality t-shirt with an awesome paranormal or supernatural theme. You'll also be entered into an online scavenger hunt where if you can make it to the end, you will be entered to win more free stuff. Again, it's ParaboxMonthly.com, and for just $29.95 you can get started with your first box today. Make sure to use promo code GoosePimples at checkout for 10% off your total order. That's GoosePimples, all one word, at checkout. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Goose Pimples. It's a podcast where I, Paul Breeden, am joined by my wonderful cousin,
Eric Arterbridge,
from his shithole country of New York City, to talk about... Listen, I always say it's to talk about, creepy and skin-crawling things that keep you up at night, but I don't think that's necessarily what the podcast has become. I think it's more... there's a lot of things that can give you goose pimples. Am I right, Eric?
I guess so, yeah.
It's not just scary stuff. No, don't get me wrong. We are heavily into the macabre and the paranormal and the supernatural.
True.
But there's other things as well. Just sometimes like weird coincidences can give you goose pimples.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
We talked about this. You said it doesn't happen to you, but I know there's some songs that give people goose pimples.
Yeah, that never happened to me.
You've never gotten You've never heard a song on the radio or like a song that kicks in at the right time on a TV show or movie and it gives you goose pimples?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I guess not all of us have that in us. Not all of us are as intellectual as the others.
That's funny.
I don't know. I just think I want to, goose pimples is, it's whatever we want it to be, Eric. We don't have to stick to just horror stuff. It's not just ghosts and goblins all the time, right?
I guess.
But today's episode it's a little on the morbid side, I would say. So what I want to talk about today, Eric, is I want to talk about... Do you like magic?
Oh, yeah, I like magic.
Do you like magicians?
Yeah, David Copperfield, Blaine, what's his name, Blaine?
Blaine, yeah. famed card magician Blaine. Well, today, Eric, I want to talk about the unfortunate magicians who have passed away due to circumstances surrounding their acts.
Uh-oh.
And I found some pretty good ones, some pretty interesting ones, and I say we just jump right into this.
Okay, let's jump into it.
Have you ever heard of the Great Lafayette?
Oh, yeah, Lafayette from True Blood.
No, it wasn't him. I think...
God rest his soul, he died too, though.
He did. I saw that this year, right? Or, well, last year.
Something like that.
That is sad.
Yeah.
But the Great Lafayette was... he was a pretty big deal. Like, a big deal. At one point, his shows were being booked 10 years in advance.
Damn.
10 years, yeah. So seeing him was pretty huge. So throughout his career, it's believed that he was making around $2.75 million a year if, you adjust for inflation.
Wait, when was this?
This was the early 1900s.
Oh, okay.
So that's big money for back then.
Yeah.
And the reason he was so successful was mainly because one of his famed tricks. He had a trick that he called the Lion's Bride. The Lion's Bride consisted of Lafayette locking an assistant in a cage with a 400-pound lion.
Oh, no.
And then just as the lion was about to tear the poor girl into pieces, its skin would be shed, and it would reveal that all along the lion was, in fact, the Great Lafayette in a costume.
What?
Yeah. I looked online. Like I said, this is the 1900s. I think this incident that we're going to talk about, he died in 1911. So there wasn't a lot of video footage of this trick.
That makes sense.
So I couldn't see how it actually went, but by all accounts, yeah, like Lafayette would be outside of the cage, the girl and the lion would be inside of the cage, and then, when it looked like certain doom for the woman, the lion's skin would fall off, and all of a sudden it's Lafayette and the woman in the cage instead of a lion.
How can that be?
I don't know. It's magic. But another thing that drew people's attention to the Great Lafayette were his elaborate set designs. And for the Lion's Bride, these sets usually consisted of oil lamps and paper Chinese lanterns. Not a great combination.
Uh-oh.
In 1911, these things all proved to be quite disastrous for Lafayette. While performing the trick, the stage caught fire, and the theater went up in flames.
Oh, no.
Now, there was an issue. Lafayette was terrified that someone would find out the secret to his Lion's Bride trick. So, before his shows, he would instruct the stagehands to lock all of the stage doors. So when the place went up in flames, all the doors backstage were locked.
That's that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, so the last reported sighting of Lafayette was made by a man who had escaped, and he claimed that the magician was attempting to save his horse from the flames the last time he had seen him. The fire was eventually put out, but 9 men were still unaccounted for. These 9 men included the Great Lafayette. After some search efforts, Lafayette's body was recovered. It was badly burned and found under some rubble. He was taken to his home of Glasgow, where he was cremated. This isn't quite the end of the story, though, because when he was returned to Glasgow, Eric, his lawyer inspected the body and realized that a few of Lafayette's rings were missing from his hand.
Uh-oh.
His lawyer smelled foul play.
All for rings?
Yeah, so the body came back, and I guess Lafayette always wore these certain rings on his hand. And his lawyer took notice that these rings were missing and started to wonder what was going on.
Well, I'm pretty curious now, too.
Well, he found out what was going on. 3 days later, while cleaning up the burned theater, a couple of workers made a horrific discovery.
No.
The body that had been returned to Glasgow and cremated, that was the Great Lafayette's body double, who was used in the Lion's Bride trick. That was the secret. He had a body double. The real Lafayette was still hidden in a compartment beneath the stage under the trap door, and he was burned to a crisp. So the whole time the fire was going on, the real Lafayette was trapped under the stage.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was also returned to Glasgow and cremated and buried next to his dog, who he loved very much.
Oh, I hope to have that one day.
You and Thurston in one of those side-by-side tombs.
Yeah, or just in the same casket is fine, too.
Eric, we talk a lot about Thurston. We really got to get him out there.
Out where?
Out in our fans want to see Thurston. They want to know about Thurston. Maybe we'll do a sticker. Maybe we'll do a Thurston sticker.
Okay.
And make it available to the public. Maybe we'll put it in one of the para boxes. Paraboxmonthly.com.
Yeah, that sounds good. He's very photogenic, so...
Okay, we're going to work on that. I have to actually get a sticker design out to Jim over at Parabox soon, so maybe we can figure that out.
Okay, great.
Sticker.
Perfect.
But for now, I say we move on to Charles Rowan.
Never heard of him.
Well, maybe you'd know him better by his stage name, Carr the Magician.
Nope.
Okay, well, Carr the Magician was a magician in the early 1900s.
Oh.
He had become well known for one trick in particular. Carr would strap himself into a straitjacket, and then the straitjacket would connect to the ground, holding him in place. Then, to really ramp things up, he'd have a car accelerate toward him at 45 miles an hour from 200 yards away while he tried to escape. You want to guess how this one ended?
He got run over.
Yeah, Rowan performed this trick a number of times, but on one day in 1930, his timing was a bit off. He made the escape, but it was a few seconds too late, and he was struck by the car's right wheel, run over, and killed in front of a large crowd, many of which were children.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's Charles Rowan.
That's a horrible way to go.
That is. I'll tell you what, it's not as horrible as this next way.
Oh, no.
So, the next guy I want to talk about, his name is AbraKaDisastah. I'm sure that isn't pronounced correctly, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Sure it isn't too, but okay.
And Janaka is one of a couple of people on this list who decided to bury themselves alive.
Uh-oh.
So, Besnayak is a 24-year-old from Sri Lanka, and he decided he was going to attempt to gain the world record for being buried alive. The buried alive trick is pretty popular in the world of magic, okay? A lot of people do it. A lot of people have done it. A lot of people have done it successfully. The thing is, most people use some sort of trapdoor or escape room to pull the trick off successfully. They don't actually spend any large amount of time buried underground. But Besnayak said poo-poo to that, Eric. And in March of 2012, he had his family bury him in a 3-foot pit and then cover him with wood and soil.
Oh, so this is a modern day act gone wrong.
This was in 2012, yeah.
Okay.
He instructed his family and everyone involved not to dig him up for 7.5 hours.
Damn.
I guess he assumed that's how long it would take to really lock his world record in place for quite a while. They listened. They did as he said. And when they finally did uncover Janaka 7.5 hours later, he was not breathing. They transported him to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. It turns out, Eric, most people can't survive without oxygen for 7.5 hours.
Yeah, that doesn't sound surprising.
No. There is an exception to this, though. David Blaine, or Blaine as we referred to him earlier.
Yeah.
In 1999, he did a buried alive trick. He actually did a public exhibition where he was buried alive for 6 days.
6 days?
6 days, Eric.
Damn.
But David Blaine took a few extra precautions that our friend Besnayak did not. He surrounded himself with a team of medical professionals who were there the entire time. And he also buried himself in a plexiglass tomb where he could be observed by the medical professionals the entire time. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is, and I don't know if Janaka Besnayak knew this when he attempted this, but the Guinness Book of World Records refuses to acknowledge the buried alive record as a real record. They've deemed it too dangerous, and they don't want people encouraged to try and break it. So, it's not even in the book.
So then what was the point?
I don't know. Maybe you didn't know.
No.
Like I said, other people do the buried alive trick. Apparently, it's pretty popular. But most people use tricks. Tricks of the trade.
So wait, but Blaine did it for 6 days when?
In 1999.
So if he already did it for 6 days, why was this other guy trying to do it for 7 hours? He wasn't going to be breaking any records.
That is a very good question, Eric. You know what? I don't know.
I hope it was worth it for him.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think there's a difference. I think when David Blaine did it, I'm not sure if obviously David Blaine wasn't without oxygen for 6 days.
Right,
so I think David Blaine's tomb was breathable. It was more like, just going without food or water or movement.
I see.
Yeah, this guy was trying to do it without oxygen, like legitimately bury himself underground.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very intelligent.
No, it turns out it wasn't very intelligent.
Right.
Okay, the next on our list of disasters is this is another guy. He went by Genesta, but his real name was Royden Joseph Gilbert Raison de la Genesta.
Oh.
And he was a Harold Houdini impersonator. And his go-to was a trick called the milk can trick. Have you ever seen the milk can trick, Eric?
No, I haven't seen it.
You've never seen it? It's one that Houdini actually used to do. Basically, and I don't know where they find these, but the magician takes a human-sized milk can, metal milk can. They fill it up with milk. They get inside of the milk can, and then they have their assistants put the lid on and lock it in place. And then I guess they escape. I think they usually put they'll put a curtain around it or something, and then they escape the milk.
Oh.
Well, Genesta this was his go-to trick. He did this milk can trick a lot. And he actually had a human-sized milk can, but his milk can had a trap door on the back, and that's how the trick worked. He'd get in the can, they'd surround it with a curtain, and then he'd slip out the back, out of the trap door, and voila, he's out, he's covered in milk. It's a miracle. In 1930, on the way to one of his performances, though, his milk can was dropped. It took a fall, and the drop resulted in a dent that made it so the trapdoor would no longer function.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, whoever dropped the can did not make mention of this. I guess they were afraid they were going to get shit canned for dropping the milk can.
Right.
So they just kept it to themselves. Janesta, during his performance, got in the can and was submerged in milk for over 3 minutes before his wife panicked and notified the crew that something was definitely wrong.
Oh, no.
The crew, who was not used to actually having to open the milk can, via the top, they were confused, and it actually took them over another minute to open the can and pull Janesta from his utter doom. Do you get it? His utter doom.
Very clever pun, Paul.
Janesta did regain consciousness momentarily, just long enough to realize that he had failed his magic trick, and then he slipped back into a coma and passed away.
That's a shame to have your last thought before you die is, I failed.
Yeah, how'd it go? What do you think's worse, drowning in milk or being buried alive?
I don't know.
It's got to be buried
pretty
alive.
Terrible.
Although, if you're in a homemade casket, that gives you a lot more wiggle room than a can of milk. So if you're a claustrophobe, you might want the buried alive avenue.
I guess so.
Eric, let's talk about Dr. Vivian Hensley.
Okay.
Dr. Vivian Hensley was an Australian-born doctor who was more of an amateur magician. His actual profession was dentistry. Hensley used to use an array of tricks to entertain his patients, his friends, and his family. And one of these tricks...
It's a male?
Yeah, he's a male.
And his name's Vivian?
His name is Vivian. Yeah.
Okay.
This was long ago, and times were very different.
Well, I was just... Because at first I thought, oh, wow, a female magician. Good for her. We don't get a lot of those.
Especially in 1938.
Right. But just another man.
Just another man.
Damn.
It's a very, it's a man-dominated sport. Magic tree.
Yeah.
But like I said, this person wasn't even really a magician.
Just an amateur.
He was a dentist.
Okay.
But he had a go-to trick. He had come up with this trick that he called the rusty razor trick.
No.
Hensley would tilt his head back and dangle an old rusty razor above his mouth. Then he would drop the rusty razor down his throat, and voila, he swallowed it whole.
Oh, no.
Now, in reality, what Dr. Hensley was actually doing was he was dropping the razor down his sleeve and then just taking a big gulp and making it seem like he had swallowed a rusty razor. Except on July 6th, 1938. This time he was performing the trick, I believe, for his son, when he slipped up and he actually dropped the rusty razor down his throat.
Oh, no.
His wife rushed him to the hospital while making him eat cotton balls, hoping that would somehow alleviate the issue.
And he was like, "Okay, I'll do it."
And he's the doctor. I like how he's the doctor, and I don't think it's going to help, the cotton ball thing. And it didn't help. After a multitude of X-rays and 2 surgeries, the doctors were never able to locate the razor. It's like finding a razor in a cotton stack.
Right? Yeah. How do you do it?
Well, you don't. Hensley would be dead 2 days later.
Damn.
That's gotta be tough. Have you ever had just like a piece of food stuck in your throat, and it just kind of nags you all day? Imagine if that piece of food was an old rusty razor.
Well, how big could the razor have been? Because I feel like if I dropped a razor in my mouth, it wouldn't go down my throat.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I was wondering that same thing. I wonder if maybe it was like half. You've seen like the old timey razors, right? Where it's like almost like a big H. Do you follow? You know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah. What do you mean a big H?
Well, like it's like a square, but then it's got the little dent
Oh yeah,
out of the top.
yeah.
and the
Oh yeah,
bottom.
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
I wonder if they maybe made like if he'd broken one of those in half or something and just had a sliver of it.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're speculating now, and you should never speculate.
Well, I guess that's true. But either way, the cotton balls didn't help.
No, the cotton balls, in hindsight, were probably a poor decision.
Hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight is 2020, so we shouldn't be judgmental here.
Right.
How about the Amazing Joe?
Is that my sister's boyfriend, Joe?
The Amazing Joe Heavens.
Nice.
No, this was the Amazing Joe Burris. And Joe Burris is going to be our second buried alive magician.
Why do they keep trying this? All right, so what happens?
So the Amazing Joe was a 32-year-old, and he idolized Harry Houdini, okay?
Okay.
But his end goal was to be better than Harry Houdini.
Well, nobody can be better than Harry Houdini.
So what Joe wanted to do was Joe wanted to perform the one trick that Harry Houdini had failed at time and time again. I guess, so Houdini, I guess, came up with this buried alive trick, but was never able to perfect it, or never comfortable enough with it to actually execute it. But Joe was going to. Joe was going to be buried alive and escape. So this one's different. This isn't like an endurance thing, like the Janaka Bosniak or whatever.
Yeah.
He wanted to just like spend a certain amount of time buried underground. What the Amazing Joe wanted to do was be buried and then escape and come like digging through the dirt and stick his hand out like a zombie.
Okay.
So the Amazing Joe was handcuffed and he was locked in a homemade coffin and buried 7 feet underground. 7 feet underground, Eric, that is almost 7 tons of dirt and cement on top of him. I guess each foot is roughly a ton.
Yeah, how are you going to get out of that?
Well, so people close to Joe tried to convince him that this was impossible, and without the use of some sort of illusion or trickery, he wasn't going to be able to successfully complete it.
Right.
They actually documented this as it happened, the build up and the trick itself. And if you look into it, if you Google Joseph Burris or the Amazing Joe, you can find it. It was like, I want to say like a Dateline special or something. But there were reporters there, and one of the reporters actually pulled him aside at one point, and on camera, he pointed out to Joe that he believed that he was overlooking the fact that cement actually dries quicker at the bottom than it does at the top. See, Joe was going to be buried with the dirt and then have a layer of cement over top. So
Cement? What?
yeah. So this reporter points out to him, like, you know, cement dries faster on the bottom than it does on the top. So you're going to have, like, even less time to get there. And Joe responds to this with a bewildered look on his face and goes, wait, it hardens at the lower part? I thought it hardened at the top. And then he kind of brushed the whole thing off. I was like, no, it's going to be fine. You know, I know it's serious. So essentially, if Joe wasn't crushed to death by the sheer weight of the 7 tons of dirt and cement that was going to be put on top of him, he would somehow need to dig through several layers of dirt and then through a fast-drying layer of cement before running out of air and suffocating. But Joe would not be deterred. The Amazing Joe waved off all his advisors, and he claimed that none of this would be an issue for him. He was insistent on doing what Harry Houdini could not. And Eric, you know what?
What?
He was right. The fast-drying cement was not an issue. You know why?
Because he didn't even make it there.
Joe's homemade coffin collapsed, and he was crushed under 7 tons of dirt and cement.
Damn. That sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. It's pretty sad because, like I said, this was documented, and you can kind of watch the special. And I did watch it, and it's got, you know, all his friends and family are there, and I guess when the coffin collapsed, like you could see, like the ground just kind of went down, and they all kind of started freaking out.
What year did it happen?
1992, Halloween of 1992.
Oh no.
Yeah, it wasn't a great situation. Like I said, the video I watched was on Dailymotion. If you want to watch this video, I'm sure you can find it. I'm not going to link this on the website, but it's out there if you want to watch. It's sad.
Yeah, sounds sad.
Okay, Eric, I have another magician here. We're going to move on to, have you heard of this guy? Harry Houdini.
Yeah, I heard him recently, I think, in this podcast.
Okay. Do you know who Houdini was?
A magician.
Okay, good. All right, we're on the same track here.
All right, nice.
Harry Houdini is not probably, Harry Houdini is without a doubt the most well-known magician in the history of the world, right? Am I accurate in saying that?
What about Blaine Blaine?
Blaine, you didn't even know his name at the podcast.
I do. That's how we know it's Blaine.
I mean, I think if you're going to make a Mount Rushmore of magicians, it's going to be Harry Houdini. It's going to be Blaine Blaine. It's going to be David Copperfield. Who's left? Maybe Chris Angel? Is Chris Angel up there?
Don't forget about, what are their names? Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, they almost made the list, huh?
Yeah, they got mauled, right, by their pet tiger.
They did, yeah.
That's a shame.
I don't remember which one, either Siegfried or Roy.
Well, I mean, how could you? You can't. Nobody knows which one is which.
Yeah, but you know what? I think, from what I've heard, apparently the tiger wasn't trying to hurt him. Apparently the tiger was trying to protect him, and you know, the way tigers treat their young is when they move them around, they pick them up by the back of the neck and carry them. And I guess, you know, either Siegfried or Roy, his neck just didn't seem to have the same integrity as a baby tiger's.
Well, he was pretty old, so.
South. But that was their defense. Like, apparently they still, like, love the tigers, and they don't blame the tiger. I think it was them that said, like, yeah, he was just acting out of protection.
Yeah, but you know what? A tiger is a wild beast. It's not a pet.
It shouldn't be on a stage in Las Vegas.
Right.
Okay, but we're not talking about Siegfried and Roy because they both survived. We're talking about Harry Houdini.
Oh, nice.
Harry Houdini was... he's credited with creating and performing stunts that captivated the world and are actually still used to this day by many magicians. So, Eric, Houdini didn't technically die during his act, but I felt like I needed to still include him in the list because of the circumstances under which he died. See, Houdini, for a very long time, billed himself as a man who could take punches to the stomach and it wouldn't hurt him at all. And this was true for the most part. He had, I guess, strengthened his core to the point where, you know, if he braced for the hits, he could take a serious punch to the stomach and just kind of brush it off.
Nice.
In 1926, Houdini was performing at the Princess Theatre in Montreal, and while in the dressing room, he was approached by a McGill University student named Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead, also a boy. And Whitehead reportedly asked Houdini a couple of questions. This is an eyewitness account. There were people in the room, and they said that Whitehead approached Houdini, and he asked him if he believed in miracles of the Bible. And then he asked him if it was true that Houdini could take a punch to the stomach without it hurting. He then abruptly hauled off and delivered several, and this is, again, eyewitnesses called them, very hammer-like blows below the belt.
Damn.
Now, the problem is that at the time, Houdini was not expecting these shots, and he was sitting on a couch reclined. He wasn't in a, upright braced position. He'd actually broken his ankle performing a few days later. That's why he was reclined on this couch. The witnesses say that Houdini took a couple of the punches, only wincing, and then eventually grabbed Whitehead's fist, stopping him, and informed him that he had not given him enough time to prepare for the punches, and that if his ankle had been in better condition, he would have postured himself in a better position to receive them. Houdini went on and performed that night, but it was in great pain. And over the next few days, he was not able to sleep at all. The pain was so severe, but he refused to seek medical attention. You can't have, the great Houdini can't be going to the hospital because he took a punch to the stomach, you know?
Well, he should have.
Eventually he did. Eventually he found himself in so much pain that he decided he had to go to the hospital. And he was diagnosed with acute appendicitis and was advised to have immediate surgery. You know what Houdini did?
I hope he had the surgery.
He left the hospital and performed his final performance. He went right to the theater and performed. On October 31st, Houdini died of peritonitis. I don't know if you know what that is. I don't know what it is, but apparently it's due to a ruptured appendix. So this guy ruptured Houdini's appendix.
So he died on Halloween.
Houdini was murdered. Yeah, he did. He did die on Halloween. Look at that.
It seems like
that's
quite
actually
a few
why
of these guys have died on Halloween.
Well, remember the Amazing Joe was he idolized Houdini, and he was actually performing the stunt on Halloween as a tribute to Houdini because Houdini died on Halloween.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, did I? But I remember reading that, and it now piqued my memory.
Oh, yeah, no, you didn't mention that, but you did mention that you said he was a Houdini impersonator or something, right?
No, that was a different guy.
I'm getting them all mixed up.
Yeah, we're running through a lot of magicians here. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
Okay, so this last part. Here's what I'm going to do. This is, I think, the best way to do this.
All right, tell me.
I'm going to run through a list of names here, Eric, and I want you to tell me if you can guess what these names have in common. Okay?
Okay.
Here we go. You ready?
Ready.
Madame Delinsky, Arnold Buck, Professor Adam Epstein, Chung Lin Soo, the Black Wizard of the West, and Ralph Biala.
They're all ethnic.
Sort of. Actually, we'll get into that. That's a funny story.
Okay.
No, all of these magicians, or all of these people, died doing the same magic trick.
Oh, no. And what trick was that?
I want you to guess.
Buried alive.
No, Eric. Did I say Amazing Joe in this list?
I don't know. I wasn't listening.
All of these people died trying to perform the most deadly trick in the history of magic. These people all died, Eric, trying to catch a bullet.
Trying to catch a bullet?
Yeah, so there are at least 15 people who have died trying to catch a bullet or trying to do the bullet catch test or trick.
Let me ask you this. Has anyone ever caught a bullet?
Yeah, Blaine.
He caught a bullet.
He did. There's actually been a couple of people that caught a bullet. Now, I don't know if there's anyone who's ever actually caught a bullet. I'm sure there's some kind of trickery, and we'll get into some of the trickery that these people used and how it went sour on them.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, it's estimated that at least 15 people have died from this, and these are some of the more notable deaths resulting from the bullet catch trick. I do want to point out Mythbusters, who I think we bring up Mythbusters quite a bit on the show. I brought them up before, right? Mythbusters actually did a myth on can you catch a bullet with your teeth, and they decided conclusively it's absolutely impossible. There's no human that has the timing or the reaction time to be able to catch a bullet between their teeth.
Right, and even if you had the timing, could your teeth handle that? I mean, it would just blow your teeth out. Right.
Well, actually, I know when David Blaine did it, he actually had a specially built brace that went in his mouth, so it wasn't like actually his teeth catching it. It was this like metal brace that I guess, I don't know how it was supported. And again, I don't think he actually caught a bullet. I think it's just added to the illusion.
Right.
So let's talk about some of these, because they all died differently. It wasn't just like, I'm going to catch the bullet. Oh, I missed. I'm dead. First off, let's talk about Madame Delinsky, because she seems to be the first notable person that died trying to catch a bullet. Madame Delinsky was actually an assistant to a magician, a Polish magician. And in 1820, they were performing in Arnstadt, Germany for the Prince, his name is Prince Schwarzenberg Sonderhausen. And their variation of the trick actually had Madame Delinsky face a firing squad of 6 soldiers, and she would catch all 6 bullets. I don't know if she'd catch them all. Like, I don't know how it worked. I don't know if they were all in her mouth or like she'd catch 2 in her hands and 1 in her mouth. But anyway, the way the trick worked, or the way the trick was supposed to work, is the soldiers were actually paid off, and they were instructed to load blanks into their guns. Now, at this time in 1820, when you loaded most guns, the way you would do it is you would take a cartridge full of gunpowder. Okay. You'd bite the tip off of the cartridge and dump the gunpowder into the barrel of the gun. Then you would put what remained of the cartridge into the barrel. So the rest of the cartridge almost acted as the bullet. Or I guess it was the bullet. So these soldiers were supposed to bite the tip off, dump the gunpowder in, and then, get rid of the extra and not actually put it in the gun. So it would look like it'd be a burst and a fire from the gunpowder going off.
Yeah.
But nothing would actually come out. Well, one of the soldiers got nervous, and he accidentally loaded the gun with live ammunition.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Madame Delinsky was shot in the abdomen in front of the Prince of Arnstadt, Germany. And she died 2 days later. And what's worse, Eric, it turns out she was pregnant at the time. And,
oh, no.
Yeah, the baby died as well. And her husband, the Polish magician, eventually was driven mad by the accident.
That's really a shame.
Yeah, that's probably the most heartbreaking on this list. Next, we'll talk about Arnold Buck. Arnold Buck had a very interesting way of performing the bullet catch trick, Eric. What he would do, to prove the gun was actually loaded, he would allow a member of the audience to come on stage and load the gun for him. The bullet that Arnold Buck provided to the audience member to be loaded was, of course, a blank.
Oh, nice.
But in 1840, Buck happened to choose... let's say the wrong guy out of the audience. He chose an audience member who was intent on figuring out exactly how magical Arnold really was. So in addition to the blank bullet, he slipped a nail into the barrel of the gun.
A nail?
A nail. And I'll give you 3 guesses as to what happened.
The nail went right in his eyeball.
Yep. Well, I don't know if it went in his eyeball, but Arnold Buck was shot and killed by a nail.
What?
The nail killed him, Eric.
Nice. Did it go in his eyeball?
I don't know where it went. The article didn't say.
Right in the urethra.
I'm sorry if that's disappointing. Yeah. Up next was Professor Adam Epstein. And Adam Epstein made... it can only be called a rookie mistake. And I'm going to put this out there. If you're using a magic wand, you really have to be careful what you use the magic wand for. Because with great power comes great responsibility. And one thing you don't want to use your magic wand for, Eric,
what?
is to shove a bullet into the barrel of a gun.
Okay.
Professor Adam Epstein did just this. He used his magic wand to load his gun. And when he was doing this, a piece of his wand broke off and lodged itself in the barrel.
Oh, no.
Professor Adam Epstein was killed when part of his magic wand flew out and pierced him in the forehead.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay, this one's funny. I didn't know about this guy. Chung Ling Soo. You want to guess where he's from?
China.
England. His real name is William Ellsworth Campbell Robinson, and he is a white man who went by the name Chung Lee Soon to establish a mystical aura around his performance. Actually, he was very, very into this and would not speak to the media without the use of an interpreter. He didn't speak a single word of Chinese.
That's what we call cultural appropriation.
So Chung Ling Soo had a trick that he would have 2 people with shotguns, and the 2 people would shoot the shotguns at Chung Ling Soo, and then he would catch both bullets. Now the way this worked is I don't know if you're familiar with shotguns, but shotguns actually have 2 barrels.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that sounds right. So
I guess what Chung Ling Soo would do is he would also let people, I guess, from the crowd, or I don't know, somebody else would load the guns for him in an attempt to prove that the guns were actually loaded. So he would have people come and put the real bullet into one of the barrels. Now the trick is there was no gunpowder in the barrel with the real bullet. They had preloaded the other barrel with gunpowder and a blank.
Oh, I see.
The issue is, after doing this trick a number of times, gunpowder residue built up in the second chamber, the one that they were putting the real bullet in. And one of the real bullets was fired from the gun and straight into Chung's chest. And after this happened, I guess his response was, he said, "Oh my God, something happened. Lower the curtain." I guess in English, this is the one time you broke character.
Yeah.
He died the next day.
That's terrible.
Yeah, this is interesting. At first, foul play was suspected because there had been a long-standing feud between Chung and Ching, a magician from whom he stole his name. So I guess there was another English magician who used the name Ching Ling Su.
So not only did this guy steal another culture's, like another country's culture, but he also stole another magician's name.
Yeah, it wasn't even his idea to be this racially insensitive. I don't think there was no such thing as racial insensitivity back then, especially when it came to Asian people. I think like at this time, let's see, when was this? 1918. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously now looking back on it, it's still horrible, but at the time, like
it was accepted.
Yeah, like those countries, like China and Japan, like the far east countries, like people had no grasp on how those people actually. It was just like so wild to people back then.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But you know what? This is something I actually think about a lot. I think about when I'm watching movies where people are shooting guns at each other. I always think, what would happen if somebody messed up and accidentally had a real gun or a real bullet and then shot an actor? And this is what's actually happening to these people.
That's what happened to Bruce Lee's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No. I didn't even know Bruce Lee had a son. I don't know anything about Bruce Lee.
Have you seen The Crow, the movie The Crow?
I don't think so.
You've never seen The Crow, Eric?
No.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, right? The Crow, the movie from the 90s where the guy had like, the face paint.
Yeah, I
remember. The main character was Brandon Lee, who was Bruce Lee's son. Oh. And that's exactly what happened, is a real bullet somehow got into the pile of blanks that they were using for the filming of the movie. And during the filming, somebody shot him.
And he died?
He died, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it kind of all led back to, there's this, you don't know anything about Bruce Lee? There's kind of like this, there's this belief, conspiracy theory almost, that Bruce Lee was cursed, I guess would be the word, for spreading certain styles of martial arts to America. I guess there were a lot of people that didn't like that. They looked down upon that.
Oh.
And people believe that like Bruce Lee was murdered and that somebody cursed him, and that's what happened to his son. It's a whole big thing. Maybe we'll get into curses one day, and we can talk more about that.
Okay. My family's cursed, so I can talk about that too.
What do you mean? I'm part of your family. I don't want you to say that.
Oh, just my immediate family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're safe. Don't worry.
Wait, what? What happened? Why do you think they're all cursed?
We'll get into it with the cursed episode.
Okay. All right. There's a teaser. Stay tuned.
Yep.
Stay tuned. Okay, there's two more that were on this list, and I want to talk about them. Next was the Black Wizard of the West, and this one, this wasn't as much an accident as it was he just got murdered. So for his rendition of the bullet catch trick, he used wax bullets. And he decided he was going to attempt this. So he never actually attempted it successfully. The first time he was going to attempt it was on stage without any rehearsal. So he bought wax bullets and he enlisted the help of his wife as an assistant. What the Black Wizard of the West did not realize was that his wife was harboring some not so great feelings towards him, and she ditched the wax bullets, grabbed some real ones, and shot her husband in front of a crowd.
That's not nice.
No, it's not. It's not nice. I wonder, you know what? I'll have to look more into it. I wonder if she got away with it.
Well, yeah.
Because if you're going to kill your husband, and he has an act where he does a magic trick where he tells someone to shoot a gun at him on stage in front of a bunch of people, and you do that, and the gun kills him, can you really be held responsible? I mean, unless you've told somebody that you're switching the bullets out.
I don't know.
I mean, how many people really know that the trick is, there's fake bullets?
Right.
If you're the police, you're like, I don't know. He said he was going to catch it. He didn't catch it. It's not her fault.
Yeah, that's true. But so if she did get away with it, though, how would we know that she did it?
I don't know. Maybe a deathbed confession of some sort.
True.
That's interesting.
Maybe a taxi cab confession of some sort.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
This was 1922. Let's see. So if she was married then, so she had to be at least in her 20s. Taxi cab confession started in, what was it? Like the mid 90s, late 90s,
something like that.
So were there any like 100-year-old ladies on taxi cab confessions?
I think a couple. Yeah, I think a couple.
Okay, could have been her. I don't remember that episode.
I don't know.
Last but not least, let's talk about Ralph Biala. Now, Ralph Biala, he almost had like secondhand death from the bullet catching trick because he was really good at it. So Ralph Biala, he billed himself as the living target, and he performed the bullet catching trick over 3,000 times.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And see, so this whole thing confuses me because if what this is saying is true, then this means that he was really catching a bullet with his teeth. He had a set of steel dentures made in order to perform the trick.
Wow.
The bullet was then fired through 3 panes of glass and into his mouth via a funnel which he made with his hands. And on his hand, I mean, he would wear steel gloves, and he would make make a funnel around your hands, like if you were like yelling to somebody across, like, hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he would wear steel gloves. He would do that. He'd make the funnel around his hands, around his mouth, and he had steel dentures he would wear.
That's crazy.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, okay, again, you can wear the steel gloves and you can get the steel dentures, but if it's still a trick, all that just adds to the illusion.
Exactly.
But apparently, the way Ralph Biala died is he started having circulation problems, and it says the circulation problems were a result of catching the bullets. And these circulation problems caused him to black out while he was taking a stroll in the mountains. He blacked out and fell off a cliff.
Taking a stroll in the mountains.
Yeah, I guess he was hiking in the mountains and he blacked out. I don't know. Maybe he just had circulation problems and he said it was from catching the bullet because there's no way this guy's really catching a bullet with steel dentures. I don't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's not possible.
I'm a skeptic.
Me too.
But that's it, dude. That's 6 people who died. They're the more notable people that were worth mentioning that died from this bullet catching trick. But, dude, over 15 people have reportedly died from doing this. So I don't think this is maybe lay off the bullet catching trick.
Yeah. I would say there are probably some better tricks out there to do.
Safer ones. Bury yourself alive. Hop in a milk tank.
Yeah, do one of them.
Yeah. Bunnies, birds, bandanas out of the mouth, all tied together. That one.
I don't know, but Paul, this really makes me want to go to Vegas and catch Siegfried and Roy.
I don't think they're.
Are they still performing?
No, I don't think so.
Damn! Now we need a time machine.
I don't think they're performing. I think that was the end of it when the tiger had his way with. Who was it? Which one got tigered?
Probably Siegfried. But I guess we'll have to settle for Penn and Teller. Are they still an act or?
I think they are. They're like on their high horse about a lot of stuff. I've noticed.
Yeah, they are. Penn. What's his name? Penn Jillette. He was on Celebrity Apprentice. I think he wasn't likable, was he? I don't remember.
I don't think he's a likable guy.
Yeah, it seemed like he wasn't very likable.
I don't know. I guess some people like him. But I think they are still performing. So maybe we'll do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't run into David Blaine? He does the street magic. I'm surprised you haven't seen him. New York is the place to be.
I haven't seen him.
Have you ever seen any street magicians in New York?
No, none.
I feel like magicians these days are just really leaving the market open to be had.
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn some. I'll learn some card tricks, and then we'll take over the streets of New York.
Paul, you already learned some card tricks. I remember you used to do them.
I know some, but they're not impressive enough to really, they're not going to draw anybody away from their iPhones on the subway.
That's true. You're right about that.
You need flair. You need music. You need to smell a little bit. That's how you get people's attention in New York.
That's true.
But that's all I have, Eric, for this one. These are the magicians. I'm sure there's more. If you have some stories of some magicians that died during their acts, and we missed them, and you want us to talk about it, just let us know. And you can do that by emailing us at goosepimplespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Again, you can, the real way, if you really want to follow what's going on, Instagram's the way to go. I think we're at Goose Pimples Podcast on Instagram. That's the most active social media form. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Make sure to check out paraboxmonthly.com, and you can sign up for your first box today and get 10% off if you use promo code GoosePimples at checkout.
Yes.
Okay, Eric, that was it.
Thank you. I can't wait to get off of here and cough because I had the flu this week.
Why wait, do it here. Let the people hear it.
Well, I've been coughing through the whole thing, so they probably did hear it.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. All right, that was a good one. Goodbye.
Thank you, bye.